very much remember not wanting to talk. I didn't know how to express emotion or anything. Like, it was a really tough time. Kinesiology was an approach where I didn't have to say anything, but it worked wonders. I could just shut my mouth. I'd go in there. I wouldn't even have to say my shoulder's sore or I've got a sore throat or anything. You're in this tropical destination, beautiful blue waters, there's rainbows over the islands. The top of the island is covered in mist. It's kind of like a King Kong mystic Skull Island scene, and then you're in the water swimming with these giant animals, and you can hear all their clicking, and you can see and look into their eye, and like, there is stuff going on there. Take the time to be selfish. Take the time to do the things that you need to do for you. The more we can do for ourselves, the more we can try to take care of whatever it is, our health, our well-being. Break those habits.
Hello, beautiful questers, and a warm welcome to the OneQuest podcast. We are absolutely delighted to have you with us on this journey of learning and self-discovery.
Our guests are not just mentors in wellness and self-improvement. They are adventurers at heart, sharing their unique paths and life lessons.
If you enjoy our show, please subscribe and share. Your support enables us to feature more amazing guests and deliver impactful conversations. Please note that some episodes may cover sensitive topics like abuse, mental health struggles, and personal challenges. Hello, and welcome to our Infinite Potential podcast. Today we have Steph Ford with us. He's co-founder of OneQuest, and we thought this was a really good opportunity to learn a little bit more about his journey and his path to wellness, which of course is our favourite topic. So I'll do a bit of an intro first. So Steph is a lifeguard turned entrepreneur with a lifelong connection to the sea. From his early days of competing at national and international levels in swimming, water polo, and surf sports, the ocean's rhythm has always been his source of inspiration. So his career includes working as a lifeguard. He had a safety training college and now runs his own finance brokerage business. Working in these industries has instilled an innate passion for helping others. However, he has a desire to have a greater impact, which has inspired the launch of OneQuest. So Steph starts his day with journaling and learning, followed by an exercise regime, which I can't wait to talk about. So he really sort of sets his foundation for his commitment to personal wellness every day. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
It's so nice to actually have this chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it feels a little bit weird having your bio read back to you. It's like, oh, should I change that? But yeah, thank you.
Well, you can change it if you want, but it's pretty good to me.
Yeah, thanks.
And it is fascinating when you really look at, trying to embody your whole life into this one little story. It never seems to do it justice.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you've had a really interesting path into co-founding OneQuest with me.
Yep.
What was kind of the trigger that helped you move into the wellness space?
Yeah, so in 2017, I moved from the education industry into mortgage broking finance industry. And then when COVID hit in my industry, there was a lot of communication about mental health, mental well-being. People were having to be sent home to work from home. They were isolated. There was a lot of talk about mortgage and finance stress. And then there was like all the different government stimulus packages and things to help people. But the key point was a lot of mental health concerns. And, I think that was just a global matter, really.
Yeah.
So that's what really brought up this whole desire, that drive to do more. And as we've discussed, my mortgage broking business is very much a one-to-one service, and it's fantastic, very rewarding. I love it. But, it's like, I'm sure I can do more. I'm sure there's more that can be done to have a bigger footprint and have greater impact globally. I'm very much Australian based as well, because finance is mostly for Australians or expats or whatever that, have home loans here. So that's what initiated the OneQuest conversation and really drove the need to do something to provide a platform where people had access to resources, to any sort of training, and for corporate programs, so that people in the workplace, if their their employer has a program for them where they can access some sort of wellness resources. Just wanted to do more, give back more, help people as much as possible.
That's awesome. I mean, you've always been a huge advocate for mental health,
Yeah.
and I'm really, really keen to sort of dig into that a little bit more. Why don't we go back and talk a little bit about your journey and, the challenges that you faced early on that sort of led you on this path to start with?
Yeah. So the I guess the teenage, the youth, those years of growing up and learning your way in the world and growing up with four sisters and having a father who was very strict, who was making it very clear, you never get pushy with your sisters, you don't hit women, all this sort of stuff. There was very strict discipline in the household, and so that was tough. Just being
Yeah.
an only boy, not having any rumble tumble time, and if that rumble tumble time happened with your sisters, it would be like backhander sort of stuff. So that was some of the youth at home, learning your way in the world. But then when I was 14 years old, my best mate, he passed away, and that really just shifted everything for me. Um, and one of the pathways out of that uh, very dark, unpleasant period of my life was mum absolutely being committed to helping me in any way possible. So she took me to different therapists. I was getting different consults. I was trying to find the right recipe for me to be able to kind of just start shifting those emotions that come with loss and death and grief and
Yeah.
all that sort of thing. And she was just relentless in her pursuit to help me get out of that. And she probably saw a very, very different child from pre-incident, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, event, to post-event, where I was withdrawn and I was not there. I was not present. I was probably very quiet, not talking, not communicating. I very much remember not wanting to talk. I didn't know how to express emotion or anything. Like, it was a really tough time. But that was my first real exposure to therapy, um, collectively. Whether it's with
Mm.
a psychologist, a counselor, a hypnotherapist, a kinesiologist, Reiki healer, Reiki healer, all these different modalities. Mum even took me to do a massage course just to try and pull me out of that space, like, have contact with other people and be okay with, other people being in my, sphere of, in my space. So, um, and ultimately, I think that was the best thing for me, was to have someone standing by me, relentlessly helping to get me through that, because that then led on to a path, like continual path ongoing since then, of staying connected to the wellness space.
Mm. Yeah, you must have felt very disconnected at that time. Was it that sort of real disembodied feeling that you had? You sort of mentioned that there were all these sort of modalities that you were trying. Was there anything that you found was really sort of breaking through?
In the end, it was the kinesiology, because with the other therapies, there was a need for me to communicate. And as a young 14, 15, 16-year-old boy who didn't know what he was feeling, didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling. And like, if someone had have asked me, I probably would have just said angry, like,
Yeah.
that's how it came out. Angry at the world, angry at my friend for taking, that path, or whatever happened, falling and dying. And angry at myself. There was a lot of self blame, because what happened was, it was the school athletics carnival. I was sick for a few days before that, so I didn't go. But my mate was supposed to come over to my house after the school athletics carnival, and he didn't. And that evening, afternoon, he died. So there was a lot of guilt or blame that I
Wow.
put on myself. So it was really hard to sit there and try to express any of this and try to openly communicate, like, how are you feeling at the moment? Well, I'm feeling angry. And,
Yeah.
what, tell me about this anger? It's like, anger? um, uh, really angry? And I don't like you and I don't want to talk to you. And why are you asking me all these questions? So kinesiology was an approach where I didn't have to say anything. And it was like a little bit strange explaining it to my friends. It's like, well, what he does is I put my arm out and he pushes down on my arm and he kind of asks me a question. And if there's truth to it, I stay strong. But if there's like a false attachment, you know, a weakness or something, then it goes down, like my arm drops. And then trying to put that in context, like, you know, if I've got an emotion that's attached to something that, you know, my shoulder's sore, you know, is it related to fear? And my arm would drop because like it's, oh, okay, that's what it's associated with. So it was kind of hard to explain that to people who had no exposure to any of these forms of treatment. But it worked wonders. I could just shut my mouth. I'd go in there. I wouldn't even have to say my shoulder's sore or I've got a sore throat or anything. And the practitioner, Dr. Rick, I still see him. So it's been, don't want to know how many years. But yeah, I can still go in and just say, mate, I'm here for just a general checkup, and he can go through everything, all of my different organs, anatomy, check all of the different emotions and everything, and just give me a tune-up, basically. Or I can go in there and I can say, hey, mate, I've got a problem with X, Y, or Z, you know, whether it's emotional, whether it's frustration, it's something that's going on in my life, and it's the treatment that I continue to get ongoing because I just find it so helpful.
Our body is so infinitely just knowledgeable. Like it knows everything that's going on, and it's amazing when you switch off the brain and just go straight to the body, how clean it is. You don't have to come up with the words, you don't have to kind of mask how you feel. It all comes out and you're like, oh, you kind of can't hide from it when it's that, you know, honest.
Yeah, that's right. And like to the point where they could get like a little vial with, say, a bacteria or a virus or something, you know, whatever the element is, whether it's a metal, whatever it is, and they could just hold it close to the body, and the arm would go down. If, you know, I was carrying a virus, then my body goes weak when that little, you know, vial is held close to my body. So when you don't have to speak about that, you don't have to say, oh, you know, I think I've got a virus or something. They can just check all these things against the body, and the body tells us what's going on. It's really helpful. If anyone struggles to talk and communicate, look up kinesiology or applied kinesiology. It's a great therapy. I think, actually, just to clarify, kinesiology, there is a pathway of kinesiology which is probably a little bit more, if I can say, woo-woo. Right. You know, you can just do like a certificate for or a diploma in kinesiology, and they use similar principles. But the person who I see, he's a chiropractor, he's a doctor, and then he's studied applied kinesiology. In addition to that, he does the neuro-linguistic programming. He does a whole range of different things. So there's two different types of kinesiology, just in case anyone's listening. They're like, oh, I'll try that, and then they get a little bit of a surprise. Whoa, what's this woo-woo stuff? But anyway.
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot of things that get woo-woo pretty quick. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing that it had such a huge impact in you sort of moving forward and helping deal with your trauma. And I know at that time you were competing at a really high level. You were doing Ironman and swimming and water polo and then surf ski, and like you were that really annoying person that was so good at every single sport that you touched. It was quite amazing to watch. Like you just, especially when it came to the water, you just took to it like literally like a fish. So did you find that was something that was kind of a good distraction, or did you find that was sort of a way for you to help deal with things, or was that just a total kind of way to numb how you were feeling?
Yeah, great question. I guess leading up to the incident, like my mate and I, we were in the pool swimming most mornings, doing laps. There was already a long history up to age 14 of sports and competition. And then after the incident, it was really hard to stay in that space, to continue doing laps without my mate there, to continue to go to school without my mate there and stuff like that. So a bit of it dropped off. I went over and did some water polo because it was a different group, a different environment and stuff like that. And then that dropped off as well. I was just really struggling across the board. But then, as you suggested, I got back into the ocean, and my mates who I was hanging around with at the time, they were all from the beach. And so we just kept going back to the ocean. We'd go for a surf and we'd be out there watching the morning sunrise come up. We'd be out there in the pouring rain. We'd be having adventures, jumping off the cliffs and, doing stuff that, is probably really stupid, but, it's not that stupid because I am taking my kids to do silly things like that these days. So that connection back into the ocean was a pretty significant piece. And I was back doing some training. That was good. That was with another group. My mate and I used to compete in surf sports. But it wasn't such a problem for me to continue doing some surf sports. It wasn't bringing up things and, revisiting the challenges that I was dealing with. So that kind of crept me out of it. And then at age 18, I tried to make it into the professional circuit. And so, yeah, I don't know that it was a distraction, but it was probably the best thing for me to keep me on a better path than what I was on. Like once he passed, I was on the destruction path, like at age 14, like the guy who I was hanging out with, the guy who was there when the event happened, we found some alcohol one day and we just got drunk. So like at age 14, 15, 16, to be drinking alcohol and then, spending too much time on the social scene, going to venues, parties, pubs, all that sort of thing at a young age. Back then when you could get fake ID, you're 16 years old going into bars and buying alcohol. So there was a path of destruction, but the fitness and the health was a path to keep me away from that in some capacity. And then eventually it really took on the part that I wanted to really pursue that. So I moved away from Sydney. I moved completely away from that environment and got myself into a healthier environment in Queensland, where I was trying to make the professional Ironman series. And that was probably a big changing point as well. So a few big moments there to get back on path. Yeah. But I don't know that it was ever really a distraction or a way for me to forget what was going on. I think it was just more like when I reflect back, there was a moment in time where I realized that this place that I'm in is absolute rubbish and I don't want to be here anymore. So it was that awareness point. And it was almost at the bottom, when you hit rock bottom, It takes that very rock bottom. I was probably drunk and, smoking and whatever and doing something stupid, and I remember, there was a bit of self-harm happening because I had no feelings whatsoever. There was nothing
numb.
Yeah, so numb. So at that rock bottom point, the healthy way forward was to, do something better for myself, something that's going to, improve my life. I didn't want to stay there, and I knew that I enjoyed the ocean. So, I guess it was a healthier way to spend my time.
That awareness is so key, isn't it? Until we have that awareness and we get that perspective, we're sort of on autopilot. And I think once you get that, it's that turning point where it's no longer a habit or a behavior, it's a choice. So when you suddenly realize you've got a bit more choice around how you're feeling, and it's like, actually, you know what, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Yeah. It's such a pivotal time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, huge. And sort of moving on from that, I mean, you went and did some travel and you kind of were a world traveler for a while.
Yeah. It was a nice time in my life. I had an endless summer for a couple of years. I was doing the lifeguarding thing. That was really nice. I enjoyed not only doing the competition and training in the ocean, but then being able to do some work at the beach as well. And I had always been doing what's called nippers, and that's where you're young and you learn to, do different skills like swimming in the ocean or paddling a board in the ocean. That's all a progression to being a volunteer lifesaver, where you would use, a rescue tube to go and rescue someone in the ocean, or you would use a rescue board. So that was early years. And then I continued to do that in a volunteer capacity. And then to be able to do that as a paid professional, that was nice, because then that offered other opportunities to travel. And, in summer at Bondi Beach, for example, you might have 10,000 people on the beach, and there's just so many thousands of people going into the water. And in one day, collectively across the beach, we might do like 120 rescues. And so,
Wow.
yeah, there was that element of helping people, which was really nice,
Yeah.
feel good thing, but also came with the opportunity to travel and do the same thing all over the world and meet amazing people and people who I pretty much call family now. Yeah, from those experiences, it was great.
It's fabulous.
Mm.
And from there, you moved into actually doing more training, didn't you? Like as far as training others.
Yep.
You started an RTO when you were teaching first aid and CPR, and I know
Yep.
you were running sort of in-person and online courses
Yep.
for quite a while. Tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah, so I came back from traveling overseas and working overseas, and I spoke to my father and said, "Hey, like, I think I'm just going to go back overseas again. You know, I've paid off my credit card or whatever, you know." And he said, "Well, hang on a sec. Before you go, this whole safety industry is going to go crazy. Why don't you think about doing something in the safety space? First aid. I've got a registered company. It's just that nothing's been done with it. You could have a go at running that company and doing some first aid training, things like that." So at that time, I thought, well, that's a pathway for me. The lifeguarding thing, as great as it wasn't really suitable for me because sitting on the beach for 10 hours for some people is easier, but for me, it wasn't really that easy. And I used to get in trouble because like I'd be wanting to read a book. I'd be like looking for some sort of stimulation, mental stimulation. So anyway, I said, okay, yeah, let's give that a go. And so we started off with first aid, CPR. We ended up doing health and safety training, management courses. And in the initial years, we were also doing aquatic rescue training. So taking those lifeguard skills and teaching other people how to do that. I was in the surf club teaching the other lifesavers, advanced resuscitation, things like that, spinal management. Then at the same time, I had a event management business, and I got pulled into that space because my father, he started up an ocean swim called the Bondi to Bronte, and that was in 2001. He started in 2005. He asked me to get involved and help out because he couldn't continue to run it himself. So an event management business was established to kind of put an umbrella over those services. And with that, I was doing ocean swimming training. So there was a lot of training, a lot of helping people learn something for themselves. And like, you know, if it's learning how to swim in the ocean, taking people from the pool and putting them in the ocean, or teaching people how to do aquatic rescue, how to do, you know, the lifesaver job of going out on a rescue board and retrieving someone, bringing them back. First aid, health and safety. There was a lot of, you know, how can we help other people sort of theme to it. Yeah, there was the online training. Yeah, it was a really good 10 years of running that company, doing safety training.
It's amazing. So much community work you were doing in that time too, and a lot of face to face. You would have seen big changes in people as they were starting to learn those skills and getting new confidences, especially in the ocean with swimming, and that would have been very, you know, heart affirming.
Yeah, really rewarding. Like for the ocean swimming stuff, some of the people that came to me, you could just see the dread and fear in their face when I'd say, okay, so now guys, what we're going to do is jump in that rip and we're going to swim out to the back. And like there's, you know, some waves coming in and people are just like, and anyway, by the end of the program, they would do the Bondi to Bronte ocean swim. And I'd see them come across the line and their smile would just be from ear to ear with that sense of accomplishment. And then I've got lifelong friends as a result of helping them transition through that fear of I'm going to die to, oh, no, I can do this. And then in another instance, one kid was in my classroom and we were teaching a first aid course, and I asked, has anyone ever been involved in a first aid, a resuscitation? And he put his hand up and he told me the story. He was at a touch football competition. One of the guys from the other team collapsed, probably a heart condition, and he was doing CPR. And as he's telling the story, he said, and all I remember is your face telling me, just keep keep going, keep going, keep going. So he had been a previous student and he'd learnt
Wow.
first aid in our class, and then he had to do it in real life, and then he was just sharing that he's there, and he's like, just remembers this guy saying, keep going, 30 to 2, 30 to 2, keep compressing, keep compressing. So there's been some real rewarding stories and connections and moments through all of
Yeah.
those years. And community is just amazing. Like being involved with Bronte Surf Club for the Bondi to Bronte swim, having done all of my volunteer life saving and nippers there and everything, all the people that I know there, it's a really heartwarming place to be. When I
Mm.
see those familiar faces, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to tell me, because I've always wondered, what is it like when you see someone, you're standing on the beach and you look out and you can see that someone's in trouble and it's on you to go and rescue them and save them.
Yeah,
Is that is that really daunting, or is it more exhilarating at the opportunity to actually be
yeah,
able to support someone when they're in, such a vulnerable situation?
yeah. I like there's that first element of every scenario. D for danger, is it safe to go in the water? So
Right, of course.
um, the the decision making moment of am I capable to go into these conditions or not? That's the very first thought process. And fortunately, I've never had to put myself into conditions that have been beyond my capacity. So there's never been any real um, uh, pause, I guess.
Mm.
Um, there was actually a good example. I was doing a mental health event last November, and we were on the beach, and it was a 24-hour event. And
Hmm.
through the night, I noticed all the police and ambulance cars, and I saw all these torches down on Bondi Beach. And I went down to, like, it's just obvious, having been in this um, area for so long, you know what's going on. There's someone missing.
Yep.
They're in the water. It's been reported. So I went down there, and the police officer said, "There's someone in the water. 4 people went out. Only 2 have come back in." And so I ran up to grab a rescue board out of the club, and I was on the phone calling people, hey, how do I get access? I need rescue equipment. And some kid turned up and he's got access. And then I called the chief lifeguard for Waverley Council, Bondi Rescue, for those of you who know that reference better. And he said, mate, you're not allowed to go in there. Like, do not go in there, please. I do not need to be searching for 3 people instead of 2. It's nighttime. And I didn't hesitate at that time because,
Right.
like, my skill level was probably like well within going into those conditions. But I just listened and said, okay, well, he's got a good point. I'm putting myself at danger. If anything happens in the water to me, no one's going to see me. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, that's probably the one time when I've really had to take that moment and think, no, don't do that. I've had some other silly experiences. Like I got a mate, I said, hey, can you swim? And he was from the States. He was like, yeah, I can swim, but the surf and a lake are 2 different beasts. So I took him
Totally.
out in the surf, and then he was caught in the rip and I had to rescue him. Like there's been all sorts of different silly moments that have happened. I've had body retrievals from people who have, jumped off the cliffs and committed suicide. I've had all sorts of different rescue scenarios that have happened. Some of them are really good experiences, some of them not so pleasant. Sometimes you're going out to help someone who's clearly drowning and they're telling you to F off.
Oh,
It's an
wow.
ego thing. They don't want to be seen as being rescued. They don't want to be embarrassed. And you just sit there next to them and you're like, you're not going anywhere. We're getting dragged out to sea. You sure you don't want some help? And they're like, no. And just so much pride. They're just going to continue to try and swim against it. But there's all
Wow.
sorts of experiences. But yeah, I've never really had that big, oh, can I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think I'd put myself in that position to doubt whether or not I should be going in the water. Yeah.
Amazing. It's big. I can't even imagine being in that situation
Mm.
where it was, so on me to be able to save someone like that. But you have so many amazing skills, and it's obviously something you fostered over such a long period of time. So
Yeah.
it's amazing that we have people like you who are so willing to put themselves on the line, for the community and for the public. I just think it's so admirable.
Wow, thank you.
Very, very cool. And over the last few years, I know that you sort of moved even more into the wellness space
Yeah,
after, so many years of doing events and running courses. And I know kind of courses and training are in your blood. Um,
yeah.
but you've been doing a lot more in this kind of realm of sort of working much more with your energy body, because obviously working with your physical body is something you're very, very used to, and mental health is something that you're always sort of trying to keep in check. But how have you found sort of stepping into some of the things like we did a retreat together, and we've done some sound healing, and some meditation. What was it like when you first started to play in that kind of realm?
Going back to when my mate passed, Mum got me into a massage course, which was amazing. Um, she was also introducing crystals into my life, and at that time I was like, whatever, I'll do whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
if this crystal is going to help me to draw out some sort of negative energy or give me positive energy, any energy transfer, I'll take it.
Yep.
Aromatherapy oils for sleep, for calming, for that sort of thing. And then I ended up doing a massage course myself, and that introduced me more into massage and oils, and I was doing more treatment for myself. When I was in Queensland, I was trying to optimize performance. So I continued seeing a kinesiologist and doing things as like pushing myself as best as I could. I was starting to do yoga, and I was looking for all the things that, some of those, you hear about these elite professionals who
Yeah.
are doing things differently. And so I was just trying to take these little snippets of, oh, okay, I heard this guy does yoga. I'm going to do some yoga
Yeah.
and see
Right.
how that helps me. Um, so that is probably the early stages. And then after that, I continued on with the kinesiology. I love going and getting a massage to treat the body. Acupuncture was a big thing. Like, I absolutely love acupuncture because I just find that it's such a impactful, immediate shift. Like, I could have gone in there with like horrible cold and flu symptoms and get a treatment and come out feeling like I feel better immediately, no medication or anything. Um, and so, yeah, then most recently, it was actually because of you. You started to get into your yoga and your meditation. You're telling me
Yep.
all these stories. And I'd gone through a break up of my marriage. I've got 2 kids. So it's not just a breakup, it was like separation, divorce, go through court. And that was really challenging. So it was your path that you were on that got me a little bit more inspired to just get back into this more taking care of myself. And I think in this instance, the training was one mechanism to get that anger out. That was one way that I was like, if I go do my morning training, I know that I'm going to just thrash out some of this, stuff. I know that I'll feel better afterwards. So I'll get those endorphins. I know that reconnecting with mother, the planet, nature,
Yes.
being on the ocean, like the amount of times when I'm out there and I get to experience or get interactions with marine life, dolphins, turtles, seals, sharks, everything. Um, uh, yeah, so stepping back into the wellness space, it's been fantastic and challenging. Like
Yes.
I've really I'm almost at 2 years of going back and doing yoga consistently every week, if not multiple times a week. And I'm like, when is the progress going to start showing? Like, come on, I'm desperate. Like I've shared with you, I feel like just dumping all of the training and fitness stuff and just going doing yoga for a while, and just I really want to see that progress. And I spoke to my yoga instructor recently, and I was like, oh, I know it never gets easy. I know you never just get it, but I really feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And she's like, no, you look like you're just smashing it. And I'm like, no. And I think it's that you see these posts on social. It's like um, what I feel like, and it shows this picture of an amazing downward dog and perfect position, and then what I really look like, and it looks like just a ball of mush and a sack of potatoes, and you're actually doing nothing that's good. So that's how I feel. But my instructors say, no, you're doing better. So that was nice feedback.
And you're one of those interesting people that love hot yoga. So
Yeah.
you probably not only feel like a sack of potatoes, you probably feel like a sweaty, wet
Oh, yeah.
mess of
Yeah.
potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in a pool of disgusting sweat. Yeah, it's not nice.
No,
I don't.
it's not. It's
I've got
actually not.
issues. I've definitely got issues. I can admit that. But yeah, like the hot yoga is something different. You know, it's different yoga flow. It's different in other challenging ways. I don't like to keep things just regular, like getting comfortable. If
Yeah.
say I went and did yoga and it was the same class and the same flow and it was always the same, then I think that would potentially get a little bit boring, and it wouldn't prompt me to push myself to grow, to do other activities, flows. Yeah.
And I know you're a bit of a sucker for the heat. You like your saunas, and you've been doing the opposite, doing your ice baths, and you've done cryotherapy and really sort of play in that realm. Yeah, the infrared.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, like now that this is all becoming, I guess it's the old yoga, you might have been perceived as a bit of a hippity-dippity, a bit of a, you're a hippie sort of person if you do yoga, and now it's so acceptable, and it's almost like if you're not doing yoga, then what's wrong with you? So yeah, with the breath work, with the ice baths, with the heat, the infrared, everything, all the science, all the information that's coming out about the benefits of all of these different treatments. Yeah, I'm all in on every level possible. It's just that I don't have enough time, and unfortunately I've got to pay the bills, and unfortunately I've got to cook dinner for my children. So yes, I can't do it all the time.
I know, it's so addictive, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's hard to not want to step in and be doing that all the time. Like it's amazing how quickly we can rebalance ourselves, and we can change and shift how we're feeling in such a fast way. Just using one, let alone two or three of those modalities together. It's it is an invaluable tool when you start being able to sort of use these as building blocks, really, for how to feel more balanced within yourself.
Yep.
And although I know you're sort of saying the yoga thing used to be a bit hippy dippy, now like some of it can get pretty full on. I mean, you've been playing in that realm a little bit more recently. And even doing, I think you did I think what was supposed to be a tarot reading, but you did a mediumship reading not too long ago too. How did you find that?
It was something that was always of interest, but I never wanted to, say you go to the markets and there's someone there doing readings. I've never wanted to just go randomly to someone and be like, oh, well, that was okay, and so once I was referred to someone, I was a little bit more comfortable, and so anyway, I made the booking. This was after separation, so there was some questions I had. There was a few things that I guess it was like, what's my future potentially going to look like? Or so I was expecting a tarot reading, but I got it completely, I got the cards and I got all the other stuff as well.
Right.
And that was really like bit of a, like there was some moments in there that were really unexpected. And so, I'd never met this person. It was an online session, which was even a bit more confusing. So I'm like, all right, how are you going to do this when we're not in person? Like, are you going to be reading my aura or my posture or my facials? Like, how are you going to, see what to say to me? Like, I was very skeptical. And she was just saying stuff that like blew my mind. Stuff that, so there's no way she could know this. I haven't mentioned anything. I haven't said anything. And it's not a guess like, there's a 50% chance it's going to rain today.
Right.
It wasn't like that. So, and then at the end, she was talking about, I've got a few people. I've just called anyone who's got messages for you to come in and join this session. And she described my grandmother, like really cheeky, tiny little lady, blah, blah, blah. And she had a message for me, which was so spot on. It was ridiculous, as I was saying, just these little prompts. And I was like, all right. So that suggests maybe she's here with me, genuinely, which, I kind of guessed, or hoped that after life in this form, there would be something else. Like I'd just disappear, and maybe my soul, there is an essence, there is an energy. There was always that question, but this kind of affirmed it a little bit more. And then the other thing, she was like, there's this young boy, blonde, curly haired kid who's like got lots of energy, really cheeky, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, that's my mate that passed away. Definitely. She described him perfectly. And so that was, and she was like, he's 100% here with you. He's here with you all the time. He's supporting you. He's watching you, rah, rah, rah. So I was like, oh, better clean up my act a bit here. So that was my first exposure to it. And then you invited me to some sound healing.
Yes.
And then we also did a retreat. And in these sound healing sessions, I haven't had like a real full-on experience, but I guess if your mind is not as busy as mine, that's something that I've got to work on, is to be in the moment more. And what can happen, from my understanding, is that we put the body into that stress state, and then afterwards, when we calm down, we get all the good chemicals flowing in, and then we can have different experiences, see different things, go into the astral, go into other places that are not in the body form as such, which we discussed, I think, on your interview. It's kind of like you can have a dream and you can see these different things, and maybe in this sound healing stuff, you can have something that might be similar. You might see things, you might experience things. So I've been doing that. Had a energy healing session, remote energy healing sessions, completely not in-person healing sessions. So that means that I wasn't even online or in person or in front of the therapist, and I was getting an energy healing session done. And that was right in the middle of competition, when I had an injury that was excruciatingly difficult to manage. But I definitely felt that change in the injury, which, again, this is me believing in this modality, but not having had any experience, and then having that experience and thinking, wow, like I stepped in believing that this could work, but then is this some sort of placebo thing going on? Like, just because I believe it can work, then I've now convinced my body, and my body's like, but I don't know what it is, but it definitely had its desired outcome.
And does it matter, really?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because it works for me. And then what's the other one? The Akashic record reading, which is more about what fate, what the universe has in store for you, what path you might be on. That's my very layman's explanation of the Akashic record reading. But in that one, again, some of these people who are in my life still, that aren't here in physical form, they came into that meeting as well. So I've had these, definitely had these experiences where I think more and more people are searching for answers, and more and more people are happy to look at what's possible and what might be out there, or they might hear of, oh, that's interesting. And, it just seeds that question, and maybe they go looking for, I'll just give that little Akashic record reading a try and see what happens. Yeah. But anyway, I'm on that path of just keep trying, being inquisitive, curious, be open-minded, because there's nothing wrong with it, right? Like,
no. And if it's supporting your journey, and if it's helping you feel better and be able to let go of more, and maybe be at a little bit more peace with your life, then it's not hurting.
I speak to a friend about this who is not so convinced about it, and what I suggest is that if someone is on a path that makes them feel good, if someone is on a path where they believe in whatever it is, energy healing, Reiki healing, massage therapy, aromatherapy, crystal healing, whatever it is, if it works for them, they feel good, and they're showing up in their community as a better person, then who gives a crap? Like, that's fantastic. Like, how many people genuinely have a healthy routine, habit, or practice that makes them go out into the world and hopefully pass on better vibes, better energy to others. So who
Totally.
cares?
Totally. And I mean, I know you've even had some amazing experiences lately that I would call spiritual experiences that maybe aren't quite so woo woo. Like you traveled to Dominica and swam with the sperm whales. I
Yeah,
mean, what an amazing experience that would have been.
yeah,
I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in the water with such magnificent creatures.
yeah, yeah. It's incredible. And even just in my training program that I have, just interacting with marine life, it's just
Mm.
incredible. Like that is a special moment because, my personal belief and I guess look on the environment and sustainability. I'm very much focused on that. I feel like as though if the world globally, if we don't do something about the plastics pollution, the overfishing, all this sort of stuff, then we will have problems. And I think personally, I believe there's enough science to back all of this, enough data. Some people think it's all nonsense, but like there may not be an opportunity for me again. There might be opportunities between now and a certain point in time for people to experience that, but who knows if that's going to be available to us to swim with dolphins, swim with whales
Yeah.
in the future, for how long that might be available. Like, anyway, so yeah, very blessed,
Yeah.
very lucky. And in that environment, like, I don't know, there was fear, a lot of fear.
Oh, yeah.
Because as much as I'm on the water, I've got a very, very healthy fear of big fish.
Me too.
Yeah. Like who wants to have an encounter with a big fish that's interested in you?
Yes.
So anyway, we're out in deep water, and me hopping in deep water is something like that's a real big barrier for me, and real fear. And so I had to be present. I had to breathe through all of that. I had to hop in the water. I had to calm my heart rate because I wanted to be able to free dive and experience what it's like to be underwater with these giant animals.
Wow.
And you can hear all their clicking and you can see and look into their eye. And like there is stuff going on there. And
Gives me shivers.
yeah, I'll get goosebumps. Like you're in this tropical destination in beautiful blue waters. There's rainbows over the islands. The top of the island is covered in mist. It's kind of like a King Kong mystic Skull Island scene, and then you're in the water swimming with these giant animals, and so very special experiences and great reminders of how lucky we are. The gratitude of like I am awake. I've seen another sunrise. I'm breathing. Like, how bloody lucky am I? Like, why would I want to focus on all this other nonsense?
Yeah.
Why would I allow myself to stay in an environment that's not healthy for me? Like, I had choices. Like, why? And this goes all the way back to when I was 14. Why would I want to stay in that place of, darkness and grief and anger and frustration and all that sort of thing? Like, I've only got one life and I may as well make the most of it. So these experiences are just a really healthy reminder. And as a friend of mine from Sea Shepherd, actually, he says it's his medicine. And so I've kind of adopted his terminology. Like I'm just getting my medicine fix for the day, getting on the ocean.
Totally.
So,
yeah. The ocean is such a special place. And I love that you also support Forever Reef. It's such an important charity. They do such amazing work.
Yeah.
So
and Sea Shepherd.
Oh, and Sea Shepherd, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
But, it's obvious how much the ocean means to you and, how much it sort of supported you throughout your life. It's so nice when you feel like you can give back and help, help keep its energy, strong and alive and thriving for not just us, but for your children and, of course, their children.
Yeah, absolutely. I could bang on about it for a long time, but the work Sea Shepherd does is, that's them out there on the front line doing the tasks that the government won't do because they just won't fund it. And then they're getting the data and the real raw footage of like these mega trawlers just driving through these herds of humpback whales in the Atlantic, Antarctica. And so they're just driving through these herds where it's their feeding grounds and like, this sort of stuff, like this is just yeah, unfortunate that humans are just careless of
Yeah.
what the future looks like for our younger generations, our kids and things like that. There may not be much left for them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a good state of affairs, is it?
Mm.
And I can see why you love getting out in your surf ski and being out there. You know, so many mornings you're out there and you're still training and still competing at
Yeah.
international and national levels.
Yeah.
So, with all that you've done, with all of your experience and your exercise and all your wellness practices, you must have a pretty healthy routine each day. I'm curious to know what that looks like for you. I mean, I'm sure you sort of mix it up quite a bit, but what are the sort of things that you're still doing to keep you sort of on track and, you know, sort of with your mental health, but also your physical health?
Yeah. When after separation, I started journaling because I just had
Right.
too much in my mind. Um, and it's practice that my dad has done for a long, 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 long time. Like he's just got rows of um, calendar year diaries and he writes in it every day. He uses it for a different purpose, but I just took a little piece out of his book and thought, okay, I'll give that a try and started journaling. And that then became something that I realized if I wasn't just writing stuff down, um, it's there's a few things to it. I think just switching off from whatever's going on and just focusing on one thing, which is the
Yeah.
writing. Within that, I also do gratitude. So I'm writing down what I'm grateful for every day. And initially, that was really hard because I was in such a bad place again with that separation that it's like, crap. What am I grateful for? What? And I had a friend who was guiding me through this at the time, and she was like, "Are you grateful for the coffee you had this morning, or are you grateful for having a roof over your head?" Like, simplify it down. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, "Oh, I'm grateful for this wonderful life that I have right now," because I wasn't feeling like writing that. So yeah, that time to slow down, just focus on one thing, doing gratitude. I've got a whole script that I just pretty much repeat. Like if someone looked at my journal, my diary, and just flicked through page to page, they'd probably go, "This guy needs a psych assessment," like because it is. No, it varies, but the script is the same. So it's like, what am I grateful for? What would make today great? What are my daily affirmations?
Love
What
that.
is my training and why do I do this? And then I write down my goals and how am I going to achieve them? Today's clear goals. What is my 1% today? Like the script is really just ingrained in me. And so, yes, in the morning, I wake up early. It's
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
best time.
you're a 4 a.m.er, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah. And
impressive.
well, it's when I can get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get up early. I do my journaling. I then hit the road. I go training.
Hmm.
And for my drive to training, it can be up to half an hour, which is an opportunity for me to listen to an audio book or a podcast or try to do something. And then on the way home, similar, I get another half-hour window to try and consume some sort of content. And I've done my exercise, and then I'm home by maybe 6:30, quarter to seven, and I've already had almost 3 hours to myself. I've done some exercise, I've done some journaling. I wake up, I have 2 glasses of water straight away every morning just to hydrate. The routine for me, that alone, like if I don't do that, it's not the end of the world. But if I don't do it for an extended period of time, like I had surgery 2 years ago, yeah, 2023. And the doctor said, I have to lay on the couch for 4 weeks. Like, don't do anything. I was like, can I go for a walk? He's like, don't do anything. I said, what about on a stationary bike? Can I just sit there and turn my legs over? He's like, don't do
No.
anything. I'm like, anyway,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so yeah, it is a really big part of my day, and it's not about anything to do with performance. Um, my acceptable exercise for the morning can be going for a walk. It could be doing anything that's in the mindfulness, like just, I don't do it. I'm, I do prefer doing the exercise, the walk, something that's more physical, but I will classify anything. If I was going to sit down and read for a little while, anything that's going to help me just have some time for me. And my theory behind it is that I'm filling up my cup. If I'm just doing the things that will help me to show up as a better person, if I'm taking care of myself, whatever it is, then I can go out into my community and hopefully have a level head and hopefully be a better person and hopefully be able to support others in some way. So that's the goal of my morning routine. And then I try to do other things like for competition purposes. If I need to get ready for a competition, then I sometimes double down and do 2 sessions in the day, like yoga at nighttime. That's considered a second session for the day.
For sure.
Yeah. So I've got a pretty strict health and exercise program. The gym has got ice bath, so whenever I go there, I take the opportunity to jump in. And sometimes with an injury, I'll try to make the effort just to go there for the ice bath, just to do a little bit of treatment on that. And so it's very much present every day, the health and wellbeing program.
That's super impressive. I think we could all take a bit of a leaf out of your book. Amazing discipline.
Yeah, like you say that, but you've got a very good program as well. It's just that it's the different program, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, I think what's interesting in that is that, when you're really sort of listening to what your body needs, because some days I need something totally different. Or I think the night before I'm going to get up and do this. And then I wake up and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this instead because I just feel like I'm in a different headspace today. And, like you said, sometimes it's a walk or it's doing yoga or, and sort of mixing it up and really listening to your body and letting it dictate what you need instead of just kind of blinkers on and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Which is when you tend to find, you get more of the injuries and, when you're not listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having that deep listening, I think, is such an important part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. So, gosh, we've gone through so much and it's been just so fantastic listening to your story. Was there anything that you feel like we've missed that you wanted to cover in our session today?
Well, we've got, I just kind of dumped on every
we covered a lot. It was great.
Yeah, look, I think that the final part of that conversation is what the type of message that I want to communicate to others is take the time, like I've said it before, take the time to be selfish, take the time to do the things that you need to do for you. And if your 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. window doesn't facilitate that, doesn't allow you to do that, then I can't say you've got to, but I truly believe that it's worthwhile finding time somewhere in there to do something for ourselves, because the more we do for ourselves, I believe the better we feel about ourselves. Because I think in that, like, we haven't even spoken about mental health really. Like, it's such a big topic. There's so many foundations, so many charities established, and so many global events, national events and things like that to bring awareness to mental health. And I think the more we can do for ourselves, the more we can try to take care of whatever it is, our health, our well-being, break those habits, those really bad habits, like if it's having 2 beers every night, if it's going to the pub, like the pub can be a great thing for communicating and connecting with people. That's one element, but maybe it's the alcohol that needs to go, or break the bad habit of not setting the alarm and having an excuse, I just can't. Change the language, like if there's one thing that people can do for themselves to help themselves to improve their life, set the alarm half an hour earlier, just go for a walk around the block to get some fresh air and stretch the legs. I'm really trying to optimize in all levels, probably to excess. Some people would think I'm a bit of a nutcase, but I try not to watch television. I'm now trying to remove the television, like to the point where I'm going to just put the television away back in the box. So it's not even there, but my poor kids would kill me. We love watching Disney and whatever movies at night. So that's, a hard one, but like to excess of me trying to just remove the clutter, remove the noise, and just do things that are going to benefit me more. And 2025 goals, one of them is to do one wellness practice every day.
I love that.
So the journaling is one, yes, but at night time, that's where I get caught up with, oh, I'm making dinner. I'm just going to sit down and put a movie on, or I'm just going to sit down and, put some crap on like that. I don't need it at all. And or flicking through the phone, at night. It's like, okay, well, I haven't put a movie on tonight. And then I could flick through the phone for half an hour, and like my last bit of the day, looking at the screen. Like, it's just a terrible thing. So, I think the more we can do for ourselves, the better we can be for others. Like, the lessons that I've learned post separation, like if you're listening and your relationship's bad, go and find something to do for yourself. Read about a relationship book, or reconnect with your partner and try to do something that's going to, heal some of those wounds. Like sitting down and just listening, such a wonderful skill that so few of us are capable of doing, because we get triggered. We're humans. Like there's something someone says, anything at all that's going to help improve our life. Because if we can improve ourselves and improve the surroundings, and this is what I think the essence of OneQuest really is that we can then go out to the world and show up to be better support for family, better support for friends, better support, lover, for our kids, for our community. And hopefully we can make better decisions like, hey, like maybe I won't use that single-use plastic, or hey, maybe I'll, whatever else we can do to improve the health of our planet, make better decisions. There. That's the only thing that I think is my key focus, and I would love to share that with others to see if we can make a change.
Absolutely. And it's the small changes. It's the changes that we make for ourselves each day so we can show up more fully and have more awareness in our lives. Those are the little 1%ers, aren't they? They're the little changes that you can make each day, so that, when we're listening to ourselves and what we need, we can just show up differently, and we can support people, like you said, have that, really be that support network for others and be able to hold space. I don't think we hold space enough for each other, let alone ourselves and what we need. It's such an important part of that growth. I think you've just absolutely hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, and sorry to waft on, but like a great example of when I haven't been in a good place through the recent years, I know that my frustration levels were, my tolerance was pretty low. So my kids, just being kids, might trigger me and be like, hey, kids, can you just settle down? Or you might do that in a relationship, be a little bit snappy because you're stressed and work's making life difficult and things like that. So just even those little life daily events that can happen, like the more we take care of ourselves, the more we help improve our well-being, then hopefully that stuff doesn't happen. And so, over time, as I continue to work on me, then with the kids, like they can just be going on, carrying on and just losing their marbles. And, I just noticed the difference in my response. I'm like, hey, talk, kids, sit down, let's not do this. Let's be kind to each other, rather than, saying, hey, Dad's going to send you to your room and, you won't have your iPad for the next 16 years or something like that, threatening them with the end of the world stuff.
Yeah. It's such a different way when you're sort of parenting more consciously. But I think you learn to parent yourself too. I think that's a big part of it, is actually, being there for yourself when you need it. Because too often we're so worried about helping everybody else. And it's like, wait a second. In the meantime, am I actually listening to what my needs are and making sure that I put myself first? In putting yourself first in the way that you're just listening to your own needs and making sure that they're met. It's such simple things that we forget to do.
Absolutely.
But having the tools are the big part of it, isn't it? It's learning some of those tools so that when you're in those spaces, you can go, oh, okay, I know how I can shift this. Or like you said, if it's going for a walk or getting in the ocean or having a saltwater bath, like sometimes it actually takes like doing something, having a tool where you can just shift whatever it is that you're feeling and just come back to yourself and go, right, let's do a do-over now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, that last question just a little bit out a little bit there. But yeah. Let's do better,
Good. That
people.
was
Let's do
great.
better.
Look,
Yeah.
oh, look, thanks so much for sharing. It's such an inspiring story that you've really kind of sort of shared with us, and it's just fantastic to learn about how you've navigated your path and all those unique lessons that you've learned along the way. It's been great. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and looking forward to our next podcast with our next guest.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Yeah.
Amazing. Much love.
Much love. See ya.
Bye.